Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this very, very first online international meeting that we've held, the first General Assembly that we've held online. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. The advantage is we've got, last time I counted, it was over 1,100 people registered. And so we are very excited that we can get to more of you. But of course, we're slightly terrified because we've never done this before. And we're hoping that there are no glitches. We've had some good training, and let's hope it all goes very well. To introduce, my name is Jennifer Thompson. I'm president of OWSD, and this is the beginning of my second term, and I'm delighted to be part of this wonderful, wonderful organization that you're going to learn a lot more about. Those of you who are members, those of you who are visitors, we welcome you all. We've got 4 themes, and we will be starting them starting from tomorrow. That the theme we will be introducing tomorrow are the impacts of COVID-19 and the pandemic on women in science. And our wonderful ambassador, Professor Alberto Quadriacorzio, is going to give a talk on pandemics, women, and the global south. That's tomorrow, Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we are introducing the theme, which is the importance of basic sciences for development. I know we often talk about the importance of applied sciences, and we will be dealing with that as well. But it's so often that basic sciences throw up things that you'd never imagine, and blow me down, you get wonderful things coming out of it. And so on Wednesday, Dr. Fabiola Giornotti, who is the head of the European Organization for Nuclear Research, commonly known as CERN, based in Switzerland, and she's going to be introducing the theme of applied science and results for development. I beg your pardon, I've made a mistake. So it's easy to make mistakes, but it's easy to correct them quickly. So on Wednesday, it's theme 1, the importance of basic sciences, and that's the head of CERN. Then on Thursday, we're going to introduce the importance of applied sciences and their results for development. And that's an international economist will be speaking to us on this, and her name is Bina Agarwal, and she's rethinking the way we develop farming and use farming. And then next week on Wednesday, we're going to be talking on the theme of including sex and gender as variables in scientific research. And there we've got a well-known author by the name of Angela Saini, who's going to be talking on how science got women wrong. So there's going to be a lot of talks, there's going to be a lot of panel discussions and discussions open to the floor, and we're going to have posters. So please consult your program and join us, because on this Friday, we're going to have a session on storytelling. I love stories, and I think we all do. So that's going to be Friday on storytelling. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce, we've got the most wonderful panel to speak to us today at our opening ceremony. And we're going to start with Her Excellency, the Italian Minister for Family and Equal Opportunities, Professor Elena Bonnetti. If I could just say a couple of words about her. She's held the office of Minister for Equal Opportunities and Family from the 5th of September 2019 to the 13th of January 2021. And then just to show how good a job she was doing, later the next month, she was appointed again as Minister for Equal Opportunities and Family by the Italian Prime Minister, Professor Mario Draghi. And so without any ado, can we have Professor Elena Bonnetti's presentation.
It is with great pleasure that I greet the community of OWSD, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. I'm truly honored to take part in this ceremony that inaugurates your General Assembly and to confirm you the commitment of the Italian government to promoting the full participation of women in science and decision-making bodies. The topic you have chosen for the International Conference Women, Science and Development touches upon the deepest meaning of the actions that today all governments are being called on to put in place to build a future of equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development for all. The presence of women in science is necessary. Without the contribution of women, science will be incomplete, simply lacking a piece of our humanity. This is why it is a priority for us to bring girls closer to science and eradicate the prejudice and stereotype according to which scientific subjects are difficult and therefore not suitable for the female world. The Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi said it clearly a few days ago while speaking to the students of a technical institute in Bari. He said, "It is our duty to break down the prejudices and obstacles that still hinder female talent." These words show the path the Italian government has taken to bridge gender gaps, starting from the presence of girls in the so-called STEM subjects. This is the path Italy has chosen for its development within the framework of the Next Generation EU, with the Italia Domani Plan and the first national strategy for gender equality. It is also the commitment that the leaders of the G20 countries have made. After the first ministerial conference in Santa Margherita Ligure, a ministerial conference on women's empowerment will be held in each G20 from now on. A structural and across-the-board commitment with constant monitoring and resources. We have a crucial challenge ahead of us, which is a sustainable and inclusive growth of our planet. This challenge requires the contribution of every woman and every man. To confront and overcome it, we need science, and we need to invest in an unprecedented way in women, in their scientific education and their full participation in the labor market. Skills, work, income, work-life balance, power. Now is the time for women to take on a leading and governance role. Every prospect of development, every hope of the new generation depends on this. It is the responsibility we have today. Our time gave it to us. It is the challenge of the future that we can only win together.
Thank you so much, Minister. Your words are so true. We all know the difficulties that women have in their careers, but they are so essential. Our second speaker is, again, an Italian minister, this time Her Excellency, the Italian Minister of University and Research, Professor Maria Cristina Messa. And if I may say a few words about her, she has been Minister of University and Research since the 13th of February 2021. She is a Professor of Diagnostic Imaging, Milano Bicocca. Excuse my...
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to the meeting of Women, Science and Development, and thanks in particular to Professor Alberto Quadro Curzio for this kind invitation. I will just introduce the theme shortly, particularly on the topics of the state of the art of women in science, and try to derive some conclusion in few minutes. European research still shows a pronounced underrepresentation of women, particularly in the so-called hard sciences and in leadership positions. Gender equality in research is essential not only for fairness, but because it could help address current and future deficits in skilled labor within the EU. The European Institute for Gender Equality published a report in 2017 showing that Europe's GDP could improve by closing the gender gap in STEM education, and that achieving gender equality in STEM education could add up to 1.2 million jobs by 2050. Less than 30% of researchers worldwide are women. The EU performance is a bit higher, 41%, but that is thanks to few member states that have reached and even passed the gender equality in science. And these are Lithuania, Bulgaria, Latvia, Portugal, and Denmark. However, in countries such as France, Germany, and Italy, only 33 or 35% of researchers are women, despite the huge and successful participation to EU funding programs. According to Eurostat 2018, women are close to reaching gender parity among doctoral graduates. Nowadays, 41% of doctoral graduates in the EU. But the work afterwards is still underrepresented. Women, in fact, represents 24.9% among self-employed professionals in science and engineering and information and communication technologies. This reality reflects an inefficient use of highly skilled women in the EU, which is considerable loss of talents. The annual increase in women researchers is less than half of the annual number of women that reach a PhD graduation. This indicates that on an annual basis, fewer than half of the women completing PhDs are becoming professional researchers. And women are also less successful than men in accessing research funds, minus 3.9%. And this has many negative consequences, such as a direct feedback of publications. As for that, the Lancet Global Health published a study conducted on the article published in the journal between 2013 and 2018. Overall, more than 5,000 different authors contributed to publication, among whom only 34% were women. And in examining the gender distribution of authors by rank, women were found to be underrepresented both in the first and last author position. Among single authors articles also, less than 30% were authored by women. So let's say that there is a long way to do in order to reach a gender balance also in science. And we need a series of concrete actions that are capable to invert these trends. And of course, this job has to start from the education of girls up to the opportunity of jobs that still see women less favored than men. We, as a Ministry of Research and Education, are dealing these days with the financing of the recovery plan that is particularly present for research application in the Mission 4, totally dedicated to education and research. And in accordance also to the plan of the National Strategic for Gender Equity, we are distributing the finances and according also to few rules that the applicants have to show. One of these rules is that at least 40% of the new positions of researchers have to go to women. And the second one is that the institution that will be eligible only if they show that they have addressed the gender equalities also through specific plans. And they are facing and trying to find solution for reach a gender equality. Overall, I think that the fact that there are many women reaching a PhD level will impose a change. And whatever can be done also through the organization that you are having also through this event, but also on general work that you are doing is very important and is of great help in the decision making that the government have to do in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister Mesa. Those are very encouraging words, and we're always impressed at OWSD at just how forward-looking the Italian government is in matters around women in science. I believe you couldn't hear me for my last little introduction, so hopefully it's going to be fine from now on. I now want to introduce Dr. Shamila Nai Badwell. She and I actually go back a while because I'll tell you just now, but at the moment she is Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences of UNESCO. And just to jump a little bit back into her CV, she was born in 1960 and she holds a PhD in life sciences from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. So we go back a while, Shamila and I. She took up her new duties as Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences at UNESCO on the 1st of April in 2019. She comes to UNESCO from the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, where she had served as Director of the Ozone Action Programme since 2012. And she was responsible for implementing the Multilateral Fund for the Montreal Protocol. And she's coordinated a unique network of 147 national ozone action officers, so important in these days of climate change. And she's providing developing countries with scientific and technical advice as to which alternative technologies to choose to the chemical substances that are depleting the ozone layer. So, colleagues and friends and members of the audience, please welcome Shamila Nai Badwell. Shamila, over to you.
Dear participants, dear scientists, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World 6th General Assembly and International Conference is now launched. The theme, of course, is Women, Science and Development, and we at UNESCO are delighted to host you here today. It is a great pleasure for me to address such a distinguished group of scientists here today. We are meeting almost 2 years into a pandemic that has tested us all. I know from OWSD's survey of its members last year that women scientists in the developing world have been particularly hard hit, with 44% of respondents having had to cut back their working hours to assume greater household or care duties. The closure of universities or redirected of funding has also brought many of our ongoing research projects to a halt. This pandemic has disproportionately affected women researchers across the world. If anything at all, it has reinforced the inequality in science. It is no wonder that some women are deciding to cut short their research career. The irony is that women had never been more needed than today in science. Dear participants, distinguished scientists, we know from the latest UNESCO science report, which was launched this year, 2021, that many governments are embracing the fourth industrial revolution. However, they face a major obstacle: how to meet the gender gap in science, technology, and innovation. In addition, there is a skills shortage in most of the technological fields that are driving this rapid societal transformation. This is at least partly because women remain a minority in many of the fields that are driving the fourth industrial revolution. Women only count for 28% of engineering graduates, 40% of graduates in computer science and informatics. They make up almost half of PhD graduates, yet they represent just 1 in 3 researchers. This therefore suggests that many women are training for a research career only to abandon this project once they leave university. Dear participants, this means we have to do more, not only to attract women to a research career, but to persuade them and to ensure that they stay with the appropriate policies. If we are to shatter the glass ceilings, we need to eliminate the persistent gender stereotypes, both in academia and in industry. One case of doing this is showcasing exceptional women. And this is exactly the partnership between UNESCO and the Fondation L'Oréal, which we have been undertaking for the past 23 years through the For Women in Science program. So far, this program of 23 years has celebrated 122 laureates and supported more than 3,800 female doctoral PhDs and postdoctoral students in more than 110 countries. In 2009 alone, the program extended its international prizes and fellowships to include mathematics and computer science. UNESCO is also mainstreaming gender equality in all of its programs in many other ways. For instance, the World Water Assessment Report has developed a new guide called Water, Gender and Climate to help the water authorities understand the impact of water on women. UNESCO is also practicing what it preaches, like OWSD, the World Academy of Science for the Advancement of Science in Developing Countries, better known as TWAS. This is a program unit of UNESCO. In 2020, one of the 3 fellows elected to TWAS was a woman. A year later, 46% of the fellows elected to the academy were women. This percentage is considered gender parity. By comparison, just 13% of the members of national science academies are women. I also would like to highlight here the role of the Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics, also based in Trieste, who have been at the forefront in promoting women physicists across the world, especially through the program of Physicists Without Borders. Dear participants, as you can see from this, UNESCO is striving to be exemplary when it comes to respecting gender inequality. There's too much at stake for gender inequality to remain the norm. It is not only the 4th Industrial Revolution which will need the talents of everyone. So will the fight against climate change, widespread biodiversity loss, health pandemics, and all the other pressing challenges of our time. If there is one message I would like people to take home from this conference, it is that gender inequality is a hamstringing our chances to tackle these urgent challenges. This makes gender inequality everyone's problem. We need more science. We need more women in science. I therefore congratulate TWAS and its members for this extraordinary session, and thank you for giving us a chance to be with you today. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you to the TWAS Director, Dr. Roman Morenzi, for this extraordinary, unique conference. Thank you to all the OWSD staff and the colleagues who are available with us here today. Congratulations to the women scientists across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shamila. I'm glad you mentioned about academies, because some years ago, the Academy, the OWSD, together with certain other partners, did an analysis of the numbers of women in academies worldwide. And as you said, it was very low, maybe 12, 13, something like that. But if you looked at the women who were doing the work, like the secretaries and the treasurers, the percentage of women rose enormously. So when you need people to do the work, ask a woman. Okay, now our next speaker is the president of the Italian National Research Council, CNR, Professor Maria Chiara Carotsa. And let me read you a few things out of her little bio. She is full professor of industrial bioengineering at the Biorobotics Institute of Scuola Superiore Santa Anna. She's a member of the Italian Parliament. She has been that from 2013 to 2018, Minister of Education, University and Research of the Italian Republic from 2013 to 2014. And apart from that, she, from 2016 to 2021, she was president of the Italian Scientific Association of Biomedical Engineers. It's remarkable how these speakers today are just showing us how much they can do, both as in official capacities and in non-official capacities. So thank you very much. Over to you, President Professor Maria Carotsa.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Maria Chiara Carotsa. I am the president of the National Research Council, And my position on women in science for the developing world will be presented according to the experience and research topics studied in our National Research Council. The issues concerning women in science have been extensively discussed over the 20 years. Either international organizations and national ones have set up a number of measures to face a different set of problems that affect the fair, equal, and efficient participation of the female component in the scientific enterprise. As we all know, the questions are of many different natures and should be faced and afforded with a multiple set of measures and instruments, each one specific for each different issue. Let's start with the most difficult but powerful ones that require the longest time to be changed. The socio-cultural one. Gender biases, prejudice, and stereotypes affect the science arena as well as the general social space. Considering girls not suited for scientific studies is far from being overcome in spite of the girls' increasing success both in scientific studies and careers. A lot has changed, but still this prejudice is not over. What can be done? Starting from early years of preschooling, boys and girls should be equally given opportunity to express and evolve in their desire to play first and study afterwards with the toys and subjects they prefer, without being told, this is girlish, or only boys do this. Talents must be free to be expressed and followed irrespective of sex and gender. Families, teachers, and professors play in this sense a major role, as well as female scientists that became a powerful role model to be followed. An easier organizational set of tasks that can be more quickly effective is related to the second number of measures I was mentioning before. Scientific organizations and academia may strongly contribute to changing the status quo, at least within their walls, and then, by the importance of the example given, also outside. I refer to a set of measures and guidelines such as gender balance, gender equality plans, dedicated positions both in chairs and professorships, and in the higher responsibility roles in boards and directive levels that rather quickly can change the numbers of female presence and in organizations, needed to say, at the same level of competence of the male one. Some ministries or universities have adopted another possible measure, a sort of ranking in competing for funds that allow more performing organizations to be given a higher amount of money if some percentage and proportions of female staff engagement is respected. Supranational institutions such as European Union and commissions or OECD and UNESCO also have some as well a significant part to play. They have actually financed over the last years many projects to study all questions related to women in science and a set of different results, and toolkits are there ready to be used. In addition, starting from Horizon Europe projects to be financed from spring 2022, no one can get project funds if a gender equality plan is not being activated by the organization applying. Let me conclude by mentioning the Rom Declaration, the final communiqué issued by the recent G20 meeting held last week in Rome. Head of states and prime ministers agreed in putting gender equality and women empowerment at the forefront of the general development and to consider their commitment for gender equality and emphasize the pivotal role of women and girls' empowerment and leadership at all levels for inclusive and sustainable development. Among other things, they directly referred to education in STEM sectors and the promotion of women entrepreneurship and leadership. That can, of course, be perfectly applied also to the science sector. So thank you very much for your attention, and I wish a nice and fruitful workshop.
Thank you very, very much for those very important words. Thank you, Professor Carotsa. Now we are turning to Dr. Kirsten Johnson-Cesai. She is head of Research Cooperation Unit of the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA. That is the Swedish agency that pays for our PhD fellowships. So we are extremely grateful to her and to SIDA for all they do for us. Let me read you a little bit about her. She's currently working at the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency and responsible for the implementation of the strategy for research cooperation and research in development cooperation. The strategy covers research that aims to improve the lives of people living in poverty through strengthening of national research systems, support for libraries, laboratories, IT, and research councils, with the aim of creating functional research environments. So incredibly important. Cesai has spent 11 years in West Africa working with rural development, food security, humanitarian and post-conflict development cooperation. So she certainly knows what she's talking about. So we look very, very much forward to hearing what you have to say. Over to you, Dr. Cesai.
Mrs. President Jennifer Thompson, distinguished OWSD members, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, it is indeed an honor to give an opening address to the 6th General Conference at OWSD, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. Sweden's International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, has supported OWSD since 1998. I have been inspired and impressed by the solid work that OWSD is doing, the knowledge and commitment shown by the staff, and the dedication that the organization has to support women scientists in developing countries. The main component in the support from SIDA is for PhD fellowships in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to women in scientifically and technically lagging countries. The results of the program have been over expectations. Since the beginning of the scholarship program, OWSD has awarded a total of 524 doctoral scholarships, of which 58% have graduated. Among the 414 doctoral scholarships awarded before 2017, 73% have completed their doctoral dissertation. Roughly 9% have dropped out and 18% are still enrolled. Around 100 fellows have participated in capacity building activities during the years 2017 to 21. They have taken courses in scientific communication, scientific publishing, and career planning. A good result was also that IDRC in 2018 started a complementary support to SIDA's, which benefits early career women scientists. We find that OWSD has become much more visible than before, and we, as I think everybody, loves the films that have been produced and are on the OWSD website. We would also like to thank the OWSD fellows and the staff that they responded with such agility and flexibility to continue the studies during the COVID-19 pandemic. The importance of networks cannot be emphasized enough, and it seems that there is a real critical mass building up in the countries with OWSD chapters. I wish you all the best and lots of success for the General Assembly and the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cesai. I'm glad you mentioned the words network because that's so important. Men tend to do their networking over beers and wine in the pub, whereas women at that stage are looking after families. And so we have to use every opportunity we can to develop good networks. Our next speaker is Nasser Faruqi, Director of Education and Science at the International Development Research Centre, the IDRC, in Canada. I've worked with the IDRC for many years, and they are a remarkable organization. Let me tell you a little bit about Nasser. As I said, he's Director of Education and Science there, and he leads a global team that helps vulnerable children and adults benefit from high-quality education and strong science systems in which women emerge as leaders, producing essential knowledge and innovations. He is the chief architect of IDRC's Open Access to Research Outputs policy and chairs the IDRC's Open Data Working Group. He is a remarkable human being, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy what he has to say. So over to you, Nasser.
Hi, my name is Nasser Faruqi, and I'm the Director of Education and Science for the International Development Research Center. It's an honor to speak today. The theme of women's science and development is particularly meaningful for the work we support through the IDRC. We're a Canadian Crown corporation that funds research to improve the lives of people in the developing world. IDRC supports Southern scientists and innovators to develop and scale solutions and amplify knowledge that they create on problems that they define for greater impact. Beyond investing in high-quality research in developing countries, we also share knowledge with researchers and policymakers for greater uptake and use and mobilize our global alliances to build a more sustainable and inclusive world. IDRC strives for equality in all aspects of its work, and with the launch of our new 10-year strategy in 2020, equality has become even more central to the work that we do. This means that across all our programs, from global health to education and science, we support the generation of knowledge, including by individuals from diverse genders, communities, histories, and experiences that tackles the systems that may perpetuate inequalities on the basis of identity. For this, we recognize that the strength and credibility of our work rests on the ability of our research programming to consider diversity and inclusion as fundamental dimensions of research quality, and that the work we support aims to advance equality and inclusion in the world. We know that it's critical for us to improve diversity and inclusion in research and to support gender transformative research efforts. We define these as efforts aiming to promote gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, not just for individual progress, but to transform gender power dynamics and structures at the community and societal level. This is because not only do systemic barriers constrain individuals' progress, but investments in systemic change leads to greater impact for individuals rather than investment in individuals alone. For instance, IDRC and its partners' most recent knowledge contributions to systemic change for gender equality include a recently launched feminist AI program, which aims to address historic exclusion and bias that currently exists in artificial intelligence systems, commonly known as AI. The program will prototype and pilot applied research and solutions on AI to ensure that technology meets the needs of women and girls in vulnerable communities and helps them rather than harms them. Another example is our work on how gender equality advocates can build awareness, evidence, and solutions to counter technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which is an increasingly pervasive problem that exists within a vacuum of legal, social, and technology-related approaches to mitigate it. In addition, in the context of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, IDRC is supporting new projects focused on gender equality in education, including gender-sensitive pedagogies and education options for girls who are out of school, addressing the gender gaps that have deepened due to the pandemic. In the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, where diversity and inclusion gaps are particularly pronounced, IDRC's Education and Science program is pleased to renew its partnership with CEDA, with UNESCO and the Organization for Women in Science in the Developing World. Consistent with the approach I explained, this new OWSD initiative will promote over the next 5 years not only leadership amongst cohorts of talented early career women scientists, OWSD and its partners will also identify, pilot, and share initiatives led by select fellows' home universities and institutes to advance gender equality in science within their organizations. We're really looking forward to fruitful exchanges between this new OWSD initiative and other IDRC-supported groups working to advance institutional change for gender equality in STEM fields in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia. This includes initiatives on understanding the unique obstacles facing women scientists and other vulnerable groups, and new research on making science more inclusive in low and middle income countries. I want to thank you all, and I wish you a fruitful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, NASA. Oh, you know, the IDRC have been fantastic. They have, as NASA said, have launched during my term of office the last 5 years, the early career fellowships, which go to women starting out, or, you know, as my vice chancellor often used to say to me, you know, women peak later than men. So early careers for a man would be a different age group from early careers in women. So we're much more flexible in the age group that we look for, but it's in their early stages. And these fellowships are phenomenal in helping women establish their laboratories. And now I come to a very good friend. Well, they're all good friends of OWSD, but Elaine Shem is the director of the Elsevier Foundation, which is based in the Netherlands. I'm sure she's going to tell you a lot about the work that we do together with the Elsevier Foundation, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. As Elsevier Foundation's director, Elaine Shem drives inclusive health and research partnerships to support the UN Sustainable Development Goals, building research capacities in developing countries and tackling health inequities wherever they are found. She has been an integral part of the Foundation's growth since joining as Program Officer in 2008. I'm not at all surprised. She's got tremendous drive. And she serves as Elsevier's director of corporate responsibility, building on 2 decades of corporate relations and responsibility roles, which focus on technology, gender, and sustainable collaborations. And we at OWSD love working with the Elsevier Foundation and with Elaine. So over to Elaine now.
It's an honor to join you at the OWSD's 6th General Assembly and International Conference. I'm Elaine Shem, Director of the Elsevier Foundation, and have worked with OWSD for over a decade. This is my very first General Assembly, and I think many of us have learned that though we miss seeing each other in person, virtual conferences actually have many benefits. They've been an accelerator for inclusion, enabling more scientists from developing countries, especially women scientists, to take part in the global research dialogue. Over the past 10 years, the Elsevier Foundation has worked with OWSD to create awards for talented early career women scientists from low-income countries, bringing them together virtually or in person at the annual American Association for the Advancement of Science conference to share their achievements, open up new networks and research opportunities amongst a community of leading scientists, engineers, educators, and policymakers around the world. Now, since 2013, we've celebrated 5 women scientists each year, focusing in on physical, engineering, and biological sciences. And in total, we've awarded 45 amazing women across 20 countries. And awarding women scientists means not only recognizing their impressive work, but empowering them to be role models. In countries where more scientific expertise and gender equality in academia is in critical need, other young women can find this powerfully motivating. And the fact that the majority of award winners are tackling UN Sustainable Development Goal challenges is even more inspiring. Let me share with you the words of Tabassum Mumtaz, one of our 2019 winners, who said, "Winning this award is like receiving an Oscar to me. This will be a tremendous inspiration to me and all the women scientists in Bangladesh and the Asia Pacific region to dream and do research beneficial to the environment and society." Our award winners have been honored by their country's presidents and celebrated by local, national, and international media. They've often gone on to receive other prestigious awards and research fellowships, such as the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science fellowships, and much more. Take Narel Zambrana, a 2019 winner from Bolivia, an ethnobotanist who works with indigenous communities to raise awareness of their use of indigenous plants and contribute this knowledge back to science. After she received her award, she was invited by the president to share her research in a face-to-face meeting. The World Food Program in Bolivia then established a program using traditional knowledge for food security. And on International Women's Day, they painted a mural of Narel at work with the message, "Every girl can be a scientist if she wants." I want to point out that the vast majority of award winners are working on solutions to contribute to the UN SDGs, and this is essential. If we're going to make progress on the huge challenges facing us as a planet, we need all the talent and diversity of mind we can get. And it's one of the reasons why we have refocused our awards with OWSD to focus on critical SDG themes going forward. 2022 will highlight women scientists working on climate action and the environment, with the award ceremony held in February next year. So in 2023, it'll be food security. In 2024, it'll be water, sanitation, and hygiene. In 2025, inclusive health. And in 2026, sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy. But tackling SDG issues is not enough. To make science truly inclusive, we also need to work towards a better integration of sex and gender lenses in the research itself. Last year, during the 5th anniversary of the UN SDGs, Elsevier, the funder of the foundation and a leading information analytics publisher, which specializes in science and health, examined the body of SDG research over the past 5 years, and they discovered that only a handful of the goals, gender and health, had more than 60% integration of sex and gender dimensions in the research topics. And the remaining SDGs had fewer than 40% of publications which included sex or gender in their research. But most of them, to be honest, hovered around the single digits. In climate action, for instance, we're only talking about 4% of articles having some mention of sex and gender, despite the disproportionate impact of climate change on women's lives and livelihoods. So there's much work to be done to ensure that women play an equal part in the global research conversation. And this is the real power of an organization like OWSD, building an incredible network of women scientists from developing countries day by day, year by year, working with influential partners, research organizations, and diverse, committed funders. We're very proud to work with OWSD, and today have a chance to celebrate all that you have achieved over the years through an ever-growing community of women applying their talent, innovation, and ambition to the issues that really matter to our planet. I know that the coming days will provide an incredibly rich opportunity to share research, experiences, and examine the burning issues of our day. Thank you for letting the Elsevier Foundation be a part of.
Thank you, Elaine. Oh, indeed. Winning those awards does give a huge boost to the women involved. And now I come to Professor Alberto Quadrio-Curcio, who's such a good friend to OWSD. He's here representing the Aspen Institute Italia as executive committee member, but most importantly, he is our first OWSD ambassador. And many of the people who are going to be speaking and being involved in this General Assembly are at his invitation, and he has been an absolute joy to work with. And so thank you very much, Professor Alberto. Come on and give us your words of wisdom. Oh no, let me first tell you a little bit about him. He's an Italian economist whose work has concentrated largely on institutional political economy and economic structural development at both the theoretical and policy stage. He is President Emeritus of Accademia Nazionale dei Lincei, the Italian Academy of Sciences and Humanities. And as I said, he's an ambassador for OWSD and also a member of the steering committee of the TWAS, of the World Academy of Sciences. So over to you, Alberto.
Good morning to all. I am very pleased for the invitation to say some words at the beginning of this 6th General Assembly of OWSD and to International Conference, Women's Science and Development. First of all, I congratulate with Jennifer Thompson for having been re-elected for the second term as president of this important UNESCO organization. Secondly, I thank warmly Jennifer Thompson and Tonya Blowers for the splendid work they have done in organizing these two meetings. Since 2017, I am member of the steering board of TWAS, Trade World Academy of Sciences, and since 2019, I am ambassador of OWSD. In the steering committee to us, I have been nominated by the Italian government, and the role of ambassador of OWSD has been decided by the board of this organization. Why I am very, very honored to have received these two nominations. I have always been interested in the problems of human development and global south. In my career university, I have done many research in these fields, and I have tried also to start initiative to prompt this kind of development. My interest has been mostly on women scientists and women in general for human development in the South and also in the North. Why? For many reasons. The first reason is that women have been always neglected in any kind of activity. I think that the role of women can be crucial always, but especially in these days, in order to prompt science diplomacy, which is crucial for the understanding of different cultures and different nations. My initiative in this field are in these days three. The first one is with Aspen Institute Italia, which is the biggest think tank of Aspen outside the United States. I am glad that Aspen Institute Italia decided on my proposal to finance a scholarship of 1 year for the program of early career. Secondly, with the Journal of Economia Politica, I started a special issue on pandemics, women, and global south. Tomorrow we talk about that. And finally, in my university, Catholic University in Milan, and in Accademia Nazionale dei Lincei in Rome, I supported many initiatives to promote women scientists and science diplomacy. As I said before, science diplomacy is crucial in my opinion, and women, if they are allowed, can do quite a lot. Thanks for your attention and good work.
Thank you, Alberto. We are constantly grateful for all you're doing for us. And then our final speaker, and not last but not least, is Professor Mohammed Hassan. He is not only the president of TWAS, but he's a special advisor to OWSD, and he is such a wise man, and we really value his the time that he gives us and the advice he gives us. So He's also as president of TWAS and also is president of the Sudanese National Academy of Sciences and chair of the Governing Council of the United Nations Technology Bank for the Least Developed Countries and of the International Advisory Board of the Center for Development Research in Germany. He's been amazing. He's been president of the Inter-Academy Partnership, IAP. He was the founding executive director of TWAS, president of the African Academy of Science, founding president of the Network of African Science Academies, and chair of the Council of United Nations University. I'm speechless. He is a gem. Over to you, Mohammed.
Dear host members from around the world, dear host partners and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I would first like to extend my greetings to you all on behalf of TWAS and its 1,343 members, to host and its 7,682 members from 148 countries, and offer our congratulations to host management team for successfully convening host 6th General Assembly and the first ever to be held virtually. OWSD, as many of you know, has been intimately linked to TWAS since its inception over 30 years ago. And I am pleased to say that I have been involved with OWSD since it first began as an idea in 1987. It was at TWAS' second General Conference held in Beijing in September 1987 that TWAS members, under the leadership of its founding president, Abdul Salam, decided that the Academy should take steps to explore the challenges facing women scientists in developing countries and to propose ways of strengthening their capacity and leadership in scientific research and education. 1 year later, in 1988, the framework of OWSD was put in place at an international conference sponsored by TWAS and the Canadian International Development Agency. The conference, held in Trieste, was entitled "The Role of Women in Scientific and Technological Development in the Third World." It was attended by over 200 eminent women scientists from over 60 countries. A major recommendation of the conference was to set up a committee to explore the idea of forming an organization of women scientists in developing countries, which subsequently led to the organization we see now. I am pleased to say that I was the only male in that committee. TWAS is pleased to have nurtured OWSD and helped to manage its activities. We are also pleased that OWSD later on helped TWAS to set up a gender advisory panel to improve women representation in TWAS membership and activities. As I mentioned earlier, the Canadian government played a key role in sponsoring and co-organizing the first meeting that led to the establishment of OWSD. A few years ago, the Canadians came back to support OWSD in a big way. And you have just heard Nasser Farouqi mentioning the recent financial support of the Canadian International Development Research Center, IDRC, to fund the very successful early career OWSD fellowships. Sweden has been involved with OWSD from very early on, with the Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, generously funding PhD fellowships since 1997. I am also delighted to see the support extended to OWSD by Minister Bonnetti, representing the family and equal opportunities, Minister Messa, representing universities and research, as well as Maria Chiara Carotsa, representing the National Research Council of Italy. And of course, Quadrio Gurzio, former president of Academia Lince, who is doing an amazing job as OWSD first ambassador. I am also happy that the Elaine Shem long-term friend of both us and to us, is here to assure her continued support to the highly regarded prizes the Elsevier Foundation gives every year to 5 outstanding women scientists. Let me end my brief remarks on this optimistic yet cautionary note to OWSD members and management. It has been a long journey for your organization, but this is just the beginning. You have strength in your membership unmatched in number and brain power. You have a global reach, you have a noble cause, and you have a moment in time when the world seems to be listening to your mission. But it is also good to remember that OWSD remains a fragile and financially insecure organization. And in these uncertain times, no organization's future is certain, especially one that depends entirely on donor support to programs. So I urge you to take full advantage of your recent remarkable progress to create a durable framework for action, focused both on present and future challenges. One that strengthens the Secretariat and obtains a secure source of funding to design and implement programs to fulfill your objectives. I truly believe that OWSD can help change the world. And I believe as well that agents of change are more critical than ever in these changing times that hold so much promise for realizing the full potential of women scientists worldwide, especially those in scientifically lagging countries. Thank you, and I wish you a very successful General Conference and Assembly.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. I don't think anybody is surprised that he's our special advisor. And thanks for that, those timely words about the importance of funding. We are now going to have a coffee break. When you come back, we're going to have a very enlightening session on the OWSD program, which is going to be given to us by members of the staff of OWSD, and I will introduce them after the coffee break. So whatever time you have it, could we meet back here at 15 minutes after the hour? And we'll get on to the second session of today's meeting. Thank you very much. Hi, are we all ready to resume our meeting? Because I have a very exciting program for you in the second session. I'm going to introduce the OWSD Secretariat. And I'm going to begin with Evgenia Marquardt, who unfortunately has had to leave us, but she did a wonderful job over the last 3 years, managing the PhD and Early Career Fellowships program and generally keeping the OWSD team organized and shipshape. And she worked when she was here very closely with Tanya Bole, who's from Italy, who has been heading the PhD fellowship since 2014. And we've got a man on our team, Sahil Zabiullah. He's the only man, and he joined us in 2017 from Afghanistan. Marina Juricev from Croatia and Erika Fartik from Slovenia work on the Early Careers program, and especially the procurement process, so important, understanding the rules for purchasing and sending equipment all around the world. I've personally worked very closely with Lucia Fanici, but she's well, not unfortunately, she's on maternity leave and she's just had a second baby girl. So congratulations, Lucia, to you and your family. And we're very grateful for all the work you've done organizing our executive board meetings and liaising with the national chapters over the last 5 years. As you all know, organizing a conference is a huge job, but organizing the first ever online conference for our 77,600 plus members is an enormous job. There has been a core team of dedicated OWSD staff, and I wish to thank them. In particular, Erin Johnson, who comes from the USA, is the communications powerhouse at OWSD and has single-handedly ensured that all your posters and videos are uploaded, that your photos and recipes are included in the lounge area, and she's worked very closely with the platform designers, Underline, who are marvelous, thank you, Underline, to make sure that these 2 weeks are a wonderfully interactive experience. Thank you, Erin, for your hard work. It is much appreciated. Alexandra Kosianovic from Peru is responsible for OWSD membership and the OWSD Elsevier Foundation Awards, and she's been continuing to approve members right up until the last minute so you can attend this conference. So members have been coming online like just minutes ago or hours ago. Alex is also liaising with all the national chapters about their live events on the 19th of October that were on, and Manuela Skipza has just joined the OWSD team from twice to help out with the conference, and she's been writing all the formal invitations to dignitaries, as well as focusing on the in-person event in Italy, which is going to be on the final day of the conference, and generally picking up any missing pieces to this very complicated puzzle. Now, Tonya. Tonya is an extremely important person in our lives, and I know I've got it somewhere right here. Sorry. Yes, Tonya Blowers. I work so well with her. We're a wonderful team, I think. She's the coordinator of OWSD and is based obviously in Trieste in Italy. She has a PhD in Women and Gender Studies from the University of Warwick in the UK, specializing in literary autobiographies and how the stories we tell about ourselves are determined by culture and context. Tonya also has a master's in world literature and English from Marlborough College in the USA. She was a lecturer in the UK and spent 10 years in London designing and delivering creative writing courses. After moving to Italy, she developed science communication courses for PhD students. And then in 2013, she took up a current position where she oversees OWSD's programs and activities, including PhD and early career fellowships, as well as events organized for over 7,000 members through our national chapters based in 45 countries in the global south. So I will now very happily hand over to Tonya.
Hi, everybody. Well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Jennifer, for managing to do the ceremony in your wonderful, spontaneous, and extremely involving, engaging way. We're really grateful, and it's a great joy to work with you. You should have said that the reason why you gave me such a long introduction is because I I'm also giving a presentation, so it was my my biography. Thank you, Jennifer. So I'm going to talk to you about those programs, which we think of really as having 4 kind of main pillars. And I think we can show the first slide, and I'll talk you through. As you can see, this is what a laboratory looked like in the olden days, full of men of a certain age working in a laboratory. Unfortunately, often they still look like that today. However, with OWSD, we have been, shall we say, changing very much the colour and the feel of laboratories. And this is, you can see in the next slide, women from all over the world working in labs with OWSD fellowships, PhDs. So as I was saying, we have 4 main pillars in order to bring as many women as possible into science from developing countries. And I'm going to talk to you about each of our 4 main programs. And as I explain each one, I'm going to call on one of our members to explain exactly what it's like to be a recipient of one of our grants, and how they spend their grants and how they apply for them, so that you members out there can have a better understanding of what that might be. And we hope very much that more and more of you will be applying in the future. So you should know that for our funded programs, we have 66 eligible countries. Now, these are least developed countries. Continue to show the next slide. Exactly. These are least developed countries and some additional countries that we've identified as not having enough scientific resources or infrastructure to really be able to train anybody in science up to an advanced level. And you can see those countries in Africa, many countries in Africa, not surprisingly. A few countries in the Arab region, and we've recently added the Syrian Arab Republic and Palestine to our list there. And then some more countries in Asia and the Pacific, and some countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. The eligible disciplines for our programs are all in STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, also medicine and engineering. As you know, members out there, the categories are broader. You can also be social scientists, some of you, and many of you are, and we welcome you. But in order to increase women scientists, we have chosen these 66 countries and these eligible disciplines. So the first pillar that we'll talk about is mobility. So because of the eligible countries, by definition, the fellows that we work with, they don't have enough resources in their home countries in order to do research at a high level. So the idea is that they need to leave their countries and get specific training, and then we hope that they will be able to return to their countries and continue training more women in their fields of excellence. These fellowships have been funded by CEDA, as you heard from Kirsten Cesai earlier, who gave a very wonderful talk. Thank you so much. And she described how CEDA has been working with OWSD since 1998. And this is a south-to-south fellowship program. That means that any woman from our eligible countries can choose the discipline that she wants to work in. She can find a supervisor in any other developing country, and that doesn't need to be obviously one of the 66 countries. That could also be India, China, Malaysia, South Africa, for example, Brazil, and then fill out an application form online and apply. And then we go through a very rigorous selection process. And you'll hear something about that in a minute from one of our successful graduates. You can see that we've had over 330 successful completions of our PhDs. That's a huge number of women, if you remember that they come from these incredibly challenged circumstances, and they have managed, any of you who've tried to do a PhD you know, the commitment it requires, the sacrifice it requires, and these women have additional challenges, and yet still they have managed. We've awarded 551 fellowships in all, and right now there are over 140 students who are completing their PhDs with OWSD. So we have a very, very high success rate and a very low dropout rate, and that's not least because of the time and care and attention that our team here in Trieste put into following up all inquiries and all difficulties with the fellows. So thank you again to Tanya and Sahil for all the hard work they have been putting in to make sure that the fellows feel looked after and any challenges they face are answered. And now we're going to hear a wonderful video that Councillor Timsina from Bhutan has recorded. Councillor was awarded the PhD in 2015 and just graduated in June 21 this year, despite the challenges of COVID. You'll know that Bhutan is right on the border there with India and near Nepal. And she's gone to a university just over the border in India, and she's going to tell you about that now. So over to you, Kaushila.
Greetings, everyone. I am Kaushila Timsina from Bhutan. I am a 2015 OWSD PhD Fellowship awardee, and I was awarded my PhD just 4 months back in June. And I'm not only the first woman to have a PhD in my family, but then the entire village of Tholinkar in Bhutan. I remember all of us, many of us crying tears of joy when I was awarded, because it was really very special for all of us. And science really interested me because it has the power to solve problems for mankind. And this water especially was of really special interest to me, and I decided to pursue my PhD in water. As I finished my master's, I applied for PhD across universities, and I got admission in Sikkim University, and to be working under professor that I was really interested to work with, because he understood my work and gave me the freedom to exercise my vision. So I was also in lookout for PhD fellowships, and luckily through an email alert, I got to know about OWSD PhD fellowship, and the application process was simple, and I could really do the application process well. And having got awarded, I could start my PhD journey. I remember dancing and dancing and dancing away my happiness when I got the email from OWSD. And 2015 February, I left home, and it was extremely difficult and lonely for me, because although my friends there were gone, and also because being a foreign national, securing data to do my PhD was extremely difficult. Further, getting trained to do modeling on water resources, I had to go to different places to understand and to be technically sound. That was very challenging. Further, the complex process of getting fellowships, which was to be disbursed to me, was very difficult, and I did not get my fellowships on time, so which was a big challenge for me. Well, but then I finished the PhD, and I got to travel the world through the OWSD fellowship, and I presented my work to wider audiences, like the IEE Science Conference in the Netherlands and the SWOT Conference in Poland, which is very important in my field. Also, to be trained in water resources in the regional level through ECMOD and through NIH, National Institute of Hydrology in India, was really possible only because of the OWSD fellowship. Well, these were a few challenges finishing the PhD, and the PhD being used by a number of CSOs and few research institutes is really important for me and really special for me right now. And For now, I am a full-time mom, and I'm looking out for opportunities to work with research institutes, but then because of the pandemic, it's been really difficult. But hopefully I'll land up something very soon. I also take this opportunity to thank OWSD for all the opportunities that you have given me. And thank you.
Thank you, Kauzila, for a wonderful description of what it's like to do the PhD fellowship. And now the next pillar that we're going to look at is capacity. So in many ways, this is exactly the opposite of mobility. So here the idea is that once you've gone away, you've left home, you've gone abroad, you've had this very exciting time meeting lots of international scientists and working in these very well-equipped modern labs, going to all kinds of conferences, meeting perhaps publishers and editors, and then you come back home and the situation is pretty much as you left it. The labs are very poor. In some ways, the situation might even be worse in that you're now greatly in demand because you've got these added skills and experience from being abroad. You've got huge numbers of students, and often as a woman at this time in your life, you might also be trying to start a family. And as we know, even though, of course, men are extremely helpful, essential in families, women often have to take up the burden of childcare. And so this can cause a clash with the kinds of duties that you might need as a scientist working in a research lab, for example. So the notion of capacity is how can we make it possible for women who might be inclined at this very point to drop out after a lot of investment of their own time and other people's funding perhaps in them as scientists, and yet at this stage in their careers they might think that it's just too challenging and they might drop out from going on as researchers. So at OWSD, we stepped in, and it was actually, we were approached by IDRC, the Canadian International Development Research Centre, and you've heard Nasser Faruqi talking about our program and how we developed together really this wonderful program at this stage, at early career. It's a fellowship. It goes over 2 years, and each fellow receives up to $50,000, which in many developing countries is a considerable sum. They can use that money in many different ways, although we request that there are specific areas in which the money is spent, and they include linking with industry, doing outreach activities as well, and there's support for training and assistance, there's support for buying equipment, there's support for setting up a lab or strengthening an existing lab. And there are also lots of training possibilities in, for example, leadership and management that you really need at this stage in your career, but you very often don't receive. So as you can see, it's a really rich program. It's very much appreciated and very needed at this level. We have over the last, since 2018, the first cohort started, 20 fellows per year. And as Jennifer mentioned in her introduction, one of the difficulties of such a program is the procurement process. How do you acquire equipment and make sure that the money is being spent on equipment and arrives in the right place at the right time? And as Jennifer said, we have 2 wonderful members here in Italy at the headquarters, Marina and Erica, who are working every day trying to ensure that all of these things are taken care of and communicating on a daily basis with all of the fellows. So we have had 60 over the last period, and we hope to be able to have at least another 60 in the following project period coming up. So even though the Early Career Fellowship is destined for 1 fellow, the knock-on effect of the work that the fellow does in research is really considerable. And this is what we mean by capacity building. It's not just the individual, but it's also the institute that benefits. For example, any pieces of equipment that the fellows acquire or any improvements to their labs are shared, obviously, by other scientists in the Institute and other scientists often in the region. They take on new research collaborators, they work with industry, they have many students that they can pass on their training to, and they also build up their own teams so that they become centers of excellence where other people might wish to come and study with them. And of course, they can always link with the over 7,600 members of the OWSD network. So any of you listening out there who would like to be linked with our early career fellows in your countries, you would be most welcome. And very often the early career fellows, along with our PhD fellow alumni, are extremely active in establishing national chapters in their own countries. And I'll tell you a bit about them in a minute. But now let's listen to Elizabeth Vanderson, who was awarded the Early Career Fellowship in 2018. And she's from Malawi. She's such an interesting person with a wonderful life story that she'll tell you about now and research career. And I'd just like to say as well that she's going to be the star of a BBC documentary that's being made, I think, perhaps even as we speak now. So over to you, Elizabeth.
Hello, welcome to 2021 General Assembly for OWSD. My name is Elizabeth Vanderson, a 2018 OWSD Early Career Fellow from Malawi. I work with Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Bunda College in the Department of Horticulture. I have spent all my life studying insects, and I am so fascinated by the insect's nervous system, and more especially the sense of touch and smell. My desire to work on insecticides and other toxins came in when I lost someone who was so important to my life because of chemical exposures. And my passion for science is driven by my desire to help people live a better life. So when I became an OWSD early career fellow, I concentrated much on working on how we can control insects in the environment without intoxicating the environment or without overloading the environment with a lot of pesticides. This fellowship helped me find my feet in the country because I did my PhD in the United States of America, and the equipment that I used, I could not access it in my country. But when I got this OWSD fellowship, it helped me get this equipment in my country that I'm able to work on solutions that will actually help my people in the country. So this helps me quite a lot because then I get to find solutions that are locally applicable and can also help improve people's lives for the better, looking at the real life situations on the ground. When I was applying for this fellowship, I wouldn't say it was difficult, but I would say you would need to have a lot of time preparing for it and make sure you are thorough. OWSD will give you enough time to prepare for it. Don't do it in the last minute, and make sure that when you're doing it, you are finding solutions to existing problems that are around you. Identifying your research problem is very important. You don't just want a research problem that is exciting, but you also want a research problem that will help you find solutions for the people that are around you that would be very helpful in changing people's lives for the better. You might want to look into issues to do with sustainable development goals. How does your research tie in with that? And who are the vulnerable groups that you're targeting? Who are your stakeholders? That's very important. And one other thing that I found out that was very important when I was applying for my OWSD fellowship, I had to make sure that I make my budget as I am doing my proposal. Doing your budget at the end of the proposal that does not help. You end up missing a lot of things. So you make sure your budget ties in with your activities very well. And I found this very helpful. And I also had to consult the people that would be helpful for me to find the equipment that I needed. So I had to talk to the vendors and people at different companies of the reagents that I would need or the equipment that I needed to buy beforehand before I submitted my budget. And that I found it very exciting. What OWSD has done to me, it has exposed me to a lot of networks it has actually put me on a spotlight as a woman scientist in Africa. But also now I wouldn't just think about Africa, but I think this places me in a better spot in the world. People who I did not get to know me, I've made collaborations with universities in Italy, other universities in Africa, and several other people that I didn't even know, which I wouldn't even have known if I wasn't part of the OWSD fellowship. And through the OWSD fellowship, I got exposed to the World Academy of Sciences, and I was inspired to be part of the team that led to the establishment of the Academy of Sciences in Malawi. Not only that, we are also proud that we established the OWSD Malawi chapter, which I'm a chair to. So this is very exciting. The next step for me is to establish a natural sciences hub where I can train as many people as possible in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM areas. But more especially, I think I would want to focus in biophysics and also maybe neuroscience and things that are tied in to insecticides and how we can control them for the better. I'm so inspired by young women scientists who I want to train in. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of this General Assembly. It was so nice to talk to you. I wish you all the best as you celebrate OWSD. Celebrate it every day, and it's really nice for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you particularly for giving us such a very clear description of how to apply for the Early Career Fellowship and the kinds of elements that you need to think about, especially, as you said, about the budget. That's very important. And often people think about, the budget right at the end, although it's really important that it informs the proposal. So thank you, Elizabeth, and we're going to be putting your video up on our website so that people can follow it when they're applying for the Early Career Fellowship. So the third pillar of our programs is visibility. And here you can see what it means to have the spotlight on you. So we all know that role models are incredibly important. And the more you see of people like you doing activities that you never thought were open to you, the more confident you feel about applying to different activities, and the more likely you will be also to succeed. So again, we feel it's a really, really important part of what we do to make the successful stories of the women scientists that we work with available to everybody. The way that we've been doing that for many years now, as Elaine Shem described so beautifully in the video that you'd have seen earlier, is through the OWSD Elsevier Foundation Awards. And I've been working with Elaine since 2013, and the program's been running since 2010. And this is simply 5 awards per year to women from our 4 different regions, and then there's 1 extra that can come from any of the regions, working in different STEM fields. And in the past, we've had each year a different field. Perhaps it's been biology, biological sciences, another year chemical sciences, another year physical sciences. This year, for the first time, we are starting a series of 5 award schemes that are based around themes. And as Elaine mentioned, the first one, we've just closed the call for applications and we'll be selecting awardees over the next few weeks. And the first call was in climate action and the environment. Next year, the call will be in food security, and the year after that in water, and the next year after that in health, and finally sustainable energy. So those of you working in those fields, get ready to apply. The awards are a wonderful, wonderful experience. The awardees always tell us that it's the visibility that counts. So even though the award is fairly modest, it's a cash prize of $5,000, but the main thing is that each awardee is invited to attend the annual award ceremony at the American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting in a different city in the US each year. And in the audience, there are often more than 300 scientists who listen to the awardees present their research, and they receive their lovely plaques that you can see in this photo here. And they have obviously many networking opportunities while they're at the conference, but they also, we take the opportunity to visit places that could be beneficial to them. So when we were in Washington, for example, the awardees visited their embassies. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute too, as being very effective. In this photo that you can see here, on the right-hand side is Susana Arachea, who is from Guatemala, and she has prepared a video for us, and she's going to tell us what it means to be an Elsevier Foundation awardee. But before we go to her, here is a wonderful example that, again, Ilan mentioned, Narel Paniagua, who is from Bolivia, and she won the award in biological sciences. She has a fantastic research where she goes around to communities looking at different plant samples and ensuring that community members know exactly how to use them as you know, as medicinal or as food items. And she's been cataloguing all of these different plants all over the country. And she won this award, and it was published. We went to the Bolivian embassy, and then a big full-page item was written about her in her own home newspaper. And when she got off the plane, she had already been invited to the president's house, the president of Bolivia, who wanted to have a meeting with her, and agreed after that they would have the very first Bolivian International Day of Women in Science. And they'll celebrate every year in February. So that was a wonderful result. And here you can also see the mural that Ilan talked about in her speech. Or this is a painting of Narel that's, you know, on a big wall in the center of the city. And again, it really demonstrates that this is a woman scientist doing great things. We'll also talk later on Friday. You're going to be able to attend a workshop on the O's Visions, which is all about visibility. And I think it was Kirsten Johnson Cesai in her talk mentioned how important the films have been to raising O's visibility. And you'll see how you can make your own film about your own lives and work, or about a scientist that you respect. You can make your own films. So I really encourage you to attend the workshop on Friday. And there's also a new program about how to make a podcast, so kind of digital audio. So that's all very exciting. So now we're going to listen to Susana Arachea tell us what it means to receive the Elsevier Foundation Award. Over to you, Susana.
Hi, I'm Susana Arachea, a Guatemalan woman of 33 years old with a 2-year-old girl. My background is in chemical engineering and nanotechnology focused on solar energy. Currently, I work as a project director of the Digital Community Centers funded by USAID. Thanks to my team in these solar power centers, we are creating job opportunities for women in rural unelectrified Guatemala, digital education skills for women and their children, and opening the dynamics for empowering women and taking leadership positions in the communities. There are plenty of challenges in the life of a woman without education, but there are also plenty of challenges of a woman educated and researchers in the developing world. The gender, the economic opportunities for education, grants, resources for our research, among others. Nevertheless, self-trust is a current challenge that sometimes creates a big barrier easy to break, especially with the sisterhood and support from mentors in another stage of their careers. I saw the email promoting the award, but I never considered applying. It was my mentor, Carmen Samayoa, a big leader in Guatemala Academy of Science, who encouraged me to apply. If you need a booster in your career, I highly encourage you to apply to these types of opportunities. In my case, this award created visibility with local and regional newspapers. I was considered one of the 100 powerful women in Central America by the Forbes journal. The most important is that this award allowed me to jump on time to join Clancy, Antoinette, Barbara, Patty, and Pamela, who were founding the OWSD Guatemalan chapter. This growing community went from 20 to 400 in less than 2 years and allowed me to interact with different women with the same challenges, the same dreams, and volunteer to promote STEM careers in new generations. I encourage you to keep fighting in your expertise field, but also to search translational and multidisciplinary research projects. And most important, get together with your local OWSD community to fight for leadership positions, where we can become in 15 or 20 years in the community of change, the action and the solution for our country's needs.
Thank you, Susanna. What a wonderful presentation and a really professional looking film. I would like to have the software to make a film like that. Please pass on the link. So the final pillar in our 4 pillars, if you remember, we've had mobility, we've had capacity, and we've had, and now we're going on to community. Community is what OWSD is really all about, and everything begins with community. You, the members, are the foundation of OWSD, and without the members, it would be very, very hard for us to spread the word about our programs in all of these different countries around the world. We have now, I think this is this morning, been updated by Alexandra, 7,699 members and friends in 148 different countries. That's quite a broad-ranging network. And it's good to know that of those members, 86% are women with at least a master's degree and often a PhD in science subjects from developing countries. The other 14% are, we have also friends and we have affiliate members. And the affiliate members are younger women who don't yet have a master's PhD. So we're now in 44 national chapters around the world. So as you all know, when there are at least 20 members in any one country, they can get together and decide to set up a national chapter. And these national chapters identify what are the specific challenges that women scientists are facing in that country, and they try and find solutions. So, for example, it might be that in Guatemala, for example, maybe the main issue is about diaspora scientists, that many scientists are leaving the country. In another country, it might be much more that the main challenge is some kind of sexual harassment in academia. It may be that in another country, there are very, very few women mathematicians, for example. So each country will identify difficulties, and they might solve them through workshops, inviting trainers, and at the Secretariat we try and support, help find good trainers, and the chapters, of course, talk to each other. And each of the chapters will communicate with our executive board, the regional representatives of the executive board, and we'll be hearing from them after this presentation. So I think Mohammed Hassan mentioned how rapidly the membership is growing, and these numbers were last updated in December 2020, and you can see the membership at that point was just over 6,000. And as I said just now, right today we're at 7,700. So it's an extraordinary number. And you might see also that this is an interesting growth in Latin America, a very steep curve. We didn't have very many members at all in Latin America until 2019, and that was when the Guatemala National Chapter started to establish itself and to really recruit members in neighboring Central American countries, and they've done a fantastic job at increasing the membership. You can see that most of our members are based in Africa, over half of our members, but we have also just under a quarter of our members in Asia and the Pacific, and Latin America growing, and in Arab countries, not so many. And these in some ways correspond also to our eligible countries, because it's quite often the fellows of our programs who are enthusiastic about OWSD and want to spread the word. Here you can see what I mentioned earlier about the diaspora. It's interesting to think about, we often think about women who are based in their home countries, but there are also a huge number of members who are leaving their home countries and going to other countries. Here you can see many members are actually moving to South Africa. Not so many are in the USA, just 8.7%, and in the UK, 6%, but also in Malaysia, Spain, Germany, France, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Chile, Canada, China, Italy. And the important thing is these members still have a great deal to offer to their national chapters back home, and sometimes they can be incredibly active. So we would like to make sure that also members living abroad can still be included in activities, especially fundraising for OWSD. So now I'm going to hand over to Rana Dajani, who is the chair of the OWSD Jordan National Chapter, and she's going to tell us about how she heard about OWSD and became a member, and then how she went about setting up the national chapter. Then after that, Rana is going to go on and tell us about a wonderful mentoring program that she has set up. So I'll just tell you something about Rana before she does that. Rana did her postgraduate at the University of Iowa. She's a Fulbright Fellow. She's also a world expert on genetics of the Circassian and Chechen populations of Jordan. She's published in both science and nature journals, and she's an incredibly active person and a really, really wonderful proponent of mentoring. And so we look forward very much, Rana, to hearing about your project. Over to you.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are around the world. It is so fascinating to be, in the ether with all of you, and such a wonderful opportunity. I came to be part of us, not in the traditional ways that Tonia had described, and maybe many of you have. And that's why I want to tell you that even if you haven't been able to get a fellowship for a PhD or an award or an early career fellowship, you still should and can be a member of OWSD, because there's a lot you can do within this wonderful and amazing network. So I was too old, and maybe some of you are like that, when I got my PhD. And so I was not eligible for any of those. And maybe that's a shout out that we need to change some of those rules to allow for more inclusivity for age, especially for females when they have to opt out and have a family and then come back into their careers. However, let's put that aside and keep it for the future. I heard of OWSD because I was searching for networks. I was searching for opportunities. And that's something I urge you to go out and search online what opportunities are out there that may fit your criteria, to reach out and meet people and learn from them and share what you have. And that's how I found OWSD. And I applied and became a member. And then when we had enough people, we were able to create our own chapter. So reach out. And sometimes reaching out is not necessarily because I want to find funding. It's all about asking advice. So some of the pieces of advice or that I would like to share with you is as you reach out, especially now with COVID, nobody's traveling much to conferences, although the world is opening up, but we can reach out through the internet and meet people that we would have otherwise not met. And so as you reach out, be comfortable with ambiguity. One of the things about scientists is they need to get out of their comfort zone. And that's very important, not to get too comfortable. And as you get out of that comfort zone and reach out to colleagues around the world, ask them for advice and share your story. Right? Be confident in who you are. That's very, very important, because if you don't share your story, people won't know what you're going through and make assumptions. And so you need to unpack those assumptions and change those stereotypes but it's you who has to do it by telling your story and remembering to be confident and that you're unique. And your story is important, and you are important, because we saw with COVID that every person counts on this earth, and the safety of everyone depends on you being an active participant. And also, when we are working all together, we do better science. And we need to keep reminding the world about that. So when I started the Jordan chapter, because we had, I think, 33 members, we, as Tonya said, we wanted to listen to what the members want, right? Sometimes we think that as leaders that we should know everything. I humbly learned that I needed to listen to each member to see how she perceives the world around her. What are her struggles? Because we're all different. We come from different backgrounds. So I learned to listen. I learned to appreciate what people want and what people need, and not to make assumptions. But most importantly, I learned to redefine terms and concepts that we take for granted. Because sometimes in our local context in developing countries, we see things differently. And that's important to value and to understand, and not to just borrow concepts from the global north, but to come up with our own concepts in our countries in the global south, and then share them with the world to enrich them. And this is how we create an ecosystem, right? An ecosystem that takes everybody into consideration. Because if we want to do science, we can't do it alone. We have to include the community, we have to include policy, we have to include private sector, but we have to listen to them, to engage them so they can be part of that conversation. And that's what we call system change. System change is about shifting those power dynamics and making paradigm shifts and starting from the bottom up. And we all know that in the end, science is for the service of humanity, which has been exemplified by the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that we need to address. And the only way to address them is that when we work together and we collaborate together. So I urge you, we need to hear your stories. You are role models, not just for your own community, but actually for the whole world. So I urge you to write your stories and share them with your communities and with the world. And OWSD is a great platform to share them. Because it's not enough that we are just present. We need to have a seat at the table, not just in our own countries, not just in the global south, but globally. And in order to have a seat at the table, we have to have a very strong voice and to speak up. And we need to break those power dynamics and to make sure that people hear us. And in order to do that, we need encouragement from our fellows. So as you are chapters from the 43 or 44 countries around the world, we need to reach out to each other, to learn from each other and support with each other. And that is part of what mentoring is all about. So I'm going to share with you a mentoring program that we started in Jordan, and hopefully this can be scaled through you so that we can all help each other. So I'm going to briefly share my screen. And I think Ivan is going to help me share my screen. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. You have sent it, so you don't need to. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to read the chat. So I want to share my screen. I don't know. Is it visible? Could somebody tell me if my screen is visible? Oh, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. All right. So you can see my slides. If somebody could shout out, because I cannot see the chat. If somebody could just vocally tell me if my slides are seen. I'm assuming you can see my slides. All right. So the program is called 3 Circles of Alimat. And Alimat is a word in Arabic that means female scientist, that speaks to our history of science. The current landscape that most programs that we see around us that are related to mentoring are too structured, or they're geared towards graduate students, and they're all male mentors or male-centric, and they're only about professional growth. So our program wanted to address those issues, right? And so we created 3 Circles of Alimat to address the female professors in STEM in a holistic way, to address their personal and professional growth by providing opportunities of collaboration and collegiality through creating mentoring networks. So this was about woman to woman, peer to peer. It's about your mid-career, because that's where we start dropping off, as statistics and studies have shown. And so what is it? You start by being a mentor to a mentee, but then the mentee becomes a mentor, and so on. So it's an ongoing chain of events that keeps on going. So what we do is we gather a group of women from our institution, and we put them together, and we train them on what does a mentor mean, and what are the expectations, and what does a mentee mean and what are the expectations, to make sure we're all on the same table. And then we do speed dating. So you know, there's research from that shows that within the first few minutes, you either click with someone or you don't. And they talk about marriage being the same. So we do speed dating between these females, and they choose their partners. And then we give to them the freedom to choose how they want to connect with each other, how frequently, and whether it's through internet, through actually meeting, or the phone, etc. And then they start working together. They work on different outcomes, both in their personal lives and in their academic lives. And that's what's different as well. We don't just focus on academia. And we did research on this mentoring program, which was just published recently in the Journal of Mentoring and Tutoring, Partnerships and Learning. So I urge you to go and read it to look at the results. But what can you do, right? So we created a mentoring toolkit that you could start this same program in your organization. And it's 5 steps. You first have to understand the concept of the program and what is mentoring and mentees all by yourself. So you read that using the toolkit. Second, you communicate with the people around you from your organization. So you choose some other women that you want to engage with you. Then you plan, step 3, and prepare a workshop with them, following the guidelines and the templates we have in the toolkit. And then you execute by running that workshop and allowing, like I said, the women to speed date, pair with each other, and then start their own mentoring relationships. And then 5th, at the end, you follow up with them to get feedback and learn more. So you don't need permission from bureaucracy. You don't need to wait for somebody, and it doesn't require funding. You can start it wherever you are in the organization at any level. And there's also a policy report that you can use to advocate later on to promote such mentoring programs going forward. And so mentoring is a cycle, right? We are mentors to mentees, and then those mentees become mentors. They grow up and become mentors again and again. So the whole concept is not to provide a centralized forum for mentors, but to find something that is decentralized, where everyone has their own agency and their own control, so they can create their own forums and don't have to wait for somebody to create it for them. And I write about it in my book, 5 Scarves, which you can email me and I can send you a copy. But I want you to remember that you are different. You are original. And like everyone else, you are here to take space in the universe. And that's why you should be proud. I will leave you with this short video.
The world needs us because we are scientists, teachers, artists. We are in all walks of life. We are also the daughters, the wives, the mothers. And above all, we are humans. Humans need to question and be questioned, to think, to share thoughts and emotions, to spread knowledge. We create networks to experience moments, a sense of togetherness and joy. 3 Circles of Alimat exists because humans are determined to make it into this world. So, shall we start?
So I'm going to end here by saying we need to share. And I think as we grow, so the first circle of mentoring starts in your own country, in your own organization. But the second circle is when you reach out to the other neighboring countries and regions. And the third is when you reach out to diaspora, as was mentioned earlier by Tonia, to reach out to that diaspora who understands you and understands your culture and can help you harness the potential abroad. And in that spirit of harnessing the potential abroad in the wider circle of the globe, we are launching a global diaspora summit next year in June 2022 in collaboration with TWAS and AAAS and other organizations. So I invite you to be part of that Global Diaspora Conference so that we can share learnings and learn from each other to solve the problems of the 21st century. Thank you very much and have a great day for the rest of the conference.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, all of those were wonderful. And just to underline the importance of the national chapters, you know, we talked about the funding that we've got. We've got no funding for national chapters. And so we urge them to establish themselves under the network of an Academy of Science or some research institute. In Kenya, for instance, the national chapter falls under the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology. So they can help you in kind. But it's just so important, the national chapters, because you are the backbone. And I just wish we could find funding to help you establish and set out on these mentoring and other experiences, because the networking is so important. So thank you to all of you who participated. We're now going to have a break for coffee for 15 minutes. So at 1:30, we will reconvene. And this is going to be a great experience, because it's the handover from the existing executive board to the incoming executive board. And that will be quite remarkable. So I'll see you in 15 minutes. Bye now. Greetings, everybody. Glad that you are back with us. And this is the session where we have the Executive Board handover. As you know, I'm Jennifer Thompson from South Africa, and I've the privilege of being re-elected president for the next 5 years. So I thank all of you who voted for me, for the trust that you've shown in me. Now, what happens in this session is that the outgoing members, do you remember when we were in Kuwait at the last General Assembly, that wonderful meeting we had in 2016 in Kuwait? This is where the members were elected by you in live session. And now we're going to hand over to the new members who were elected online this July. And many of you who are watching were at that meeting in Kuwait in person. In fact, there were about 550 members at that General Assembly. It's a beautiful country, Kuwait, and we had such superb hosts. It was wonderful. And I certainly hope that our next General Assembly, which will be in 4 years' time in 2025, will be in person. And we'll hold it in one of our 4 regions, and I very much look forward to meeting a lot of you in person there. And we can laugh and talk and dance together in that environment. That'll be fun. But there are benefits of being on live, and as Tonya and I've mentioned, there were over 1,100 registered. Many. It's amazing how many we've been able to have, and I'm sure this number will increase as we go through the 2 weeks. Those of you, well, many of you will have participated in the online elections in July, and I hope some of you who voted for others will put yourselves forward, consider standing for election yourselves next time. Now, just to tell you a little bit about what the Executive Board does, we are responsible for representing the wishes and needs of our OWSD members. We're responsible for making the mission of OWSD visible to potential members and partners in the regions. Remember, OWSD has 4 regions: is Africa, Asia, the Arab region, and Latin America and the Caribbean. Each region has 2 members. It's a vice president for each region and a member for each region. So that makes it 8 in all, plus myself as president. And my role is to chair the board meetings and to represent OWSD on the international stage wherever I can. And I must say, I love my job because it does take me, in the olden days, it took me in person, now it takes me online, to all sorts of meetings, and UNESCO meetings, International Science Council meetings, the CGIAR, those of you in agriculture will know that International Agricultural Research Stations. One of the very interesting ones I went to in 2019 was in Vienna. It was a meeting of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, quite a mouthful. And I was asked to be on a panel of women talking about aspects of interest to the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, that Test Ban Treaty. And just before the meeting in Vienna, I got a message saying, no, we don't want you to be on the panel. We want you to be at the opening ceremony and be on the stage with the likes of Ban Ki-moon and, head of the United Nations. In the end, he couldn't come. He had a family crisis. But I mean, and I asked them, why do you want me on the panel at the start? The opening ceremony. And people said, well, if women ran the world, maybe we wouldn't need a nuclear test ban treaty. So it was great. And so many things I could tell you about that I've participated. I've also been involved in training of the sessions that have been held by the Secretariat, and workshops for the early careers and PhD fellows. I remember I did one on predatory journals, and it was largely from what I learned online and from colleagues who'd experienced it. But recently I was taken by not a journal, but a publisher. And after I'd written my chapter, which I'd been invited to write, they said, okay, now that's 1,400 British pounds. Well, I won't go into how I came out on top. But so my next talk on predatory journals is going to be from the heart. I've also travelled to the Elsevier Foundation Awards at the, as Tanya was saying, they're at the AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And I went to one in Boston and one in Seattle. And the one in Seattle was in 2019. And a week later, they shut the airport, and I'd gone on to a meeting in Trieste. And when I left Venice, they shut the airport the next day. So I had a lucky escape getting back to South Africa. But I loved interacting with those Elsevier Foundation Prize winners. And in fact, the best part of my whole experience as being president is meeting the members face to face. And I've been very fortunate that I've been invited to launches of new national chapters and workshops. Zimbabwe, Kenya, Cameroon, Rwanda, Ghana, so many. Because, of course, I'm in Africa, I go mostly to the African ones, and our vice presidents for the different regions go to the ones in their regions. But I love these events. They're joyful and full of hope. And I remember in Zimbabwe, we ended up, the meeting was in Harare, the capital, and we ended up with this wonderful dance where the kids came and the husbands came and everybody just joined in. It was just wonderful. And I certainly hope to attend many, many more. So now to our handover. This is the first time we've done it online, and we hope that the technology and us and ourselves will work properly. So please be patient if things get a little glitchy. But what's happening is that each of the current vice presidents will now tell us something about their region and introduce the past and present members of the executive board. So we're going to start in Africa, and we're going to start with Olubukola Babalola. We just call her Babalola. So Babalola, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all whose members out there. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to have been elected for a second term to the whole executive board. My name is Olubukola Oloroti Babalola. I'm from Ogun State in Nigeria, and my heart is still there. Hello to all the Nigerians in the audience. There are many of you, 1,646, the largest OWSD population in any one country. Still, in 2001, I moved to Kenya with an OWSD PhD fellowship to study microbial biotechnology of Striga hemotica. I did that at the Kenyan Sugar Research Foundation, Kenya Agricultural Research Institute, and the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology, ICIPE. Since then, I have moved to Israel, but now I stay in South Africa, and I'm a full professor at the Northwest University. I've won many awards and prizes, including the Gender Insight 2020 finalists. I spend a lot of my time mentoring and tutoring young women to become leaders in their field. This is my passion, and I think I'm good at it. My duty as the newly elected vice president for the Africa region is to connect with as many members as I can in the region, support them when they want to set up a national chapter, attend their meetings when invited, and answer their questions and challenges. We are all working together to build a network across the region. At this moment, there are 3,982 members in Africa in 42 countries. We now have 17 national chapters in Botswana, Cameroon, Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. We even opened 2 new chapters just this year in Benin and Uganda. Although it was difficult to meet because of the pandemic, we still had many activities, including the conference in Nigeria, the sponsored facilitated program in Namibia, the science talks in Zimbabwe. I would like to thank all the National Chapter Executive Committee members, especially the founders of chapters, often senior women with robust scientific research or administrative backgrounds, but also young women like many of you listening who decide to take on the responsibility without any financial reward of collecting members together, asking them what they want, and organizing activities. All these women just do this work because they believe in us, they believe in women scientists, and they know that our work is important to improving the lives and businesses of ordinary people in their countries. Thank you. My achievements and looking forward. In my 5 years so far on this board, I have to tell you that the things I'm proud of is the life I have touched through strategic expansion to French and Portuguese-speaking nations. Over these 5 years, there have been 11 new chapters launched. I have been able to attend many meetings and give talks on seminars, webinars. I'm recognized as an inspiring trainer, and the members keep on inviting me back to share more peers of wisdom, and the chapters are getting together to organize regional meetings. I mean, all these and many more are sources of inspiration. I'm looking forward to doing over the next 4 years as the Vice President of Africa in the scientific and soft skill empowerment of early career and mid-career scientists. I'm committed to helping us to promote science, sharing knowledge, encouraging participation, and building community. My goals as Vice President will be to provide broad support for the activities of OWS, support in terms of fundraising, networking, career development, strategic planning, to support the activities of the headquarters staff as needed, and support all national chapter and branches as necessary. I'm now going to hand over to AC, who has been regional member for Africa for 2 terms and is now leaving the board. She will greatly be missed by every one of us. I have so enjoyed working with AC, and I think we have made a very effective team. With this handover, I congratulate and thank AC for all her hard work for us and wish her very well in the future. On behalf of all the OWS executive board, I know that she will continue to support us and set an excellent example for women scientists everywhere. Over to you, my dear sister AC.
Thank you very much, Babalola. It has been a great pleasure working with you too. And all the members from Africa. Yes, I'm AC Ewa, and the first Vice Chancellor of the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani, Ghana. And my research focus has mainly been on wastewater treatment, particularly looking at natural systems and the removal of pathogens. My passion about mentoring young girls and women in academia has been very successful. I have mentored a lot of women so that they can have the opportunities and experience that I have had to take up positions of influence. Now that I have retired as a professor of environmental health and sanitation, I am still working at the Regional Water of Environmental Sanitation Center in Kumasi, where I have taken up a lectureship position in wastewater treatment, environmental impact assessment, solid waste management, and the rest. I'm also organizing women in water and sanitation to help in achieving the sustainable development goals.
Thank you so much, Essie. It has been a pleasure to meet you, and I'm sure I will be in contact with you for advice and suggestions over the coming months. Yes, I am fortunate Fadirai from Zimbabwe, and as you can see, I'm one of the youngest members in the OWSD Executive Board. I'm an engineering professional and an entrepreneur. In 2020, I founded and I'm the director of Sustainagy, a company dedicated to a cause that is very close to my heart, renewable energy. I'm also the national team leader for the Green Hydrogen Atlas Africa project for Zimbabwe. I would like to add that I am a proud and dedicated wife and a mother to 3 energetic boys. I'm incredibly proud to have been elected to represent Africa on the executive board for OWSD. I founded and am the current national chapter chair for the OWSD Zimbabwe National Chapter, which is based and hosted under the Zimbabwe Academy of Sciences. And it was launched 3 years ago. But we have achieved a lot. We have managed to partner with IBM Digital Nation for Africa through Tofara Online to train women on coding, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. And also we have recently partnered with AfriSearch, an organization which is being funded by the US Embassy to train and capacitate women and in STEM to become mentors and mentees. We have nearly 300 members and 19 women have graduated with PhDs through the OWSD Fellowship. We have organized many wonderful activities and we've got weekly online events that take place on WhatsApp. So I am looking forward to taking lessons that I have learned already from Zimbabwe National Chapter further into the region to link more.
Thank you, Fortunate. It was wonderful to hear the good work that our sisters in Africa have been doing. Here too, in the Asia, we have been equally busy. I am Atya Kaple, the Vice President of the Asia region. I am a scientist working in the field of environmental remediation. I head the Environmental Biotechnology and Genomics Division at CSIR NERI, and that is an institute that is dedicated towards working in the environment. I'm really happy to be elected for the second term in the OWSD Executive Board. I thank all the members who have supported me. I am based in Nagpur, in India, and I'm sure that you all know what a large country we are. We have a huge population, and for members, we are 360 members, and for them to connect with each other in these, traveling these large distances is not so easy. But we have a national chapter, we are very active in that, and we do a lot of work and try to connect. Now this online mode has become so good that we are able to connect without actually physically traveling with each other. We do have our specific challenges as women scientists, and our government is making good policies and changes to help support women empowerment. We have a number of schemes from the Ministry of Science and Technology, the different bodies that help women. They have special fellowships, for women who want to come back after a career break. And there are a number of such programs that the government of India is looking into. But what I would most proudly like to share is my own body, the CSIR, which is the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. This comes under the Ministry of Science and Technology. And the last year, we saw a wonderful policy decision that is going to be implemented very soon now, and that is relaxing the age for entry into a women scientist post. Normally at the age of 35, many people who take a break are not able to get back because they have already crossed that age limit as the entry into a permanent scientific post. But now CSIR is increasing this by 5 years, and this is the most wonderful opportunity that could have been created for women in science. As the Vice President, I have done my duty in connecting with as many members as I can across this region, and to support them in setting up different national chapters. I would love to, and I have in the past attended the meetings where I was invited to answer the questions and face the challenges across this region. We are all working very hard to build a network where all the women scientists across Asia can connect with each other. At the moment, we have 27 countries in our region. We have 12 national chapters in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Nepal, Iran, Myanmar, China, and Turkey. And we have now created a Central Asia chapter where you have very few members, but they still want to have a national chapter. So we have combined the countries of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan and made a Central India national chapter. In my 5 years so far on this board, I was really happy to connect with OWSD members from across the region. It was really amazing to see that all the women, all the women scientists, we are culturally so diverse, but the challenges that we face are so similar. I have been really happy to connect, and I hope to continue to do the good work. One thing I would like to mention is that as a part of the Vice President, I was given the chance to mentor the Elsevier Foundation Award awardees. It was so amazing to hear the stories and to help to contribute to shape up these young women. I look forward to more such events in my tenure. What I'm looking forward over the next 4 years as my Vice President of Asia is to work towards the challenge of women leadership. OWSD is already doing wonderful work in empowering young women, all women actually, but young women to fulfill their dreams. We need to continue that good work. All the members of the Asia Pacific need to act as role models for the younger ones. That is how we will be able to support and endure all the challenges that come our way. Besides doing this good work, we need to focus on women leadership. You know that women leaders are few and far between, and we need to join hands to change the script. I'm now going to hand over to Hassan Anupama Azari from Bangladesh, who has been also elected as the regional member of Asia, just like me, for the second term. Over to you, Anupama.
Thank you, Atiya, so much. My name is Hassan Anupama Azari, and I work in radiation medicine, and I'm currently Director and Professor, Center of Biomedical Science and Engineering, United International University. I am sincerely grateful to have been elected for a second term of the OWSD Executive Board. I am from Dhaka in Bangladesh, which, like many developing countries, has faced many specific problems during the pandemic. We have very few hospital beds and intensive care units in many private and public hospitals, and at the beginning of the pandemic, this was critical. Women are at the front line of hospital care and were disproportionately affected. The same is true for economics. Many women are in casual labor, and their earnings are day-to-day and precarious. During the pandemic, they could starve. I have worked specifically to support communities during these challenging times by organizing accredited e-learning programs for medical physicists, mandatory manpower of the cancer team, and online English and IT class for the rural students. In addition to this, I have also conducted relief distribution program for the underprivileged people who have lost their ability to earn during the pandemic. We have keeping up working in these various fields in urban and remote areas collaboratively to comply with the following objectives. We have over 200 members in Bangladesh, and the national chapter has organized a series of very interesting webinars during the pandemic. There are also many recipients of OWSD funding, with over 30 PhD graduates and 11 more completing their studies. 4 members from Bangladesh have received the Early Career Fellowship, and 5 have received the prize from the Elsevier Foundation. This suggests that women in science are actually achieving high levels of excellence. In my 5 years so far on this board, I have to tell you that the thing I'm most proud of to see 8 new chapters launched in Asia Pacific region. Those are Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, Central Asia, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Pakistan. What I am really looking forward to doing over the next 4 years in my term as regional member of Asia Pacific, in this term would like to some activities for mid-career women who face domestic and social difficulties to carry on leadership potential. Also, members of the national chapter will be grouped into sub-specialties based on disciplinary interest to share their information, thoughts, and perspective through intra and inter-chapters. My experience says that more collaborative work is very important in specific areas, especially for STEM. I'm now going to hand over to Huda Basalim from Yemen, who has been regional member for the Arab region for the last term and has now been re-elected as Vice President of the Arab region. Over to you, Huda.
Oh, sorry. Unfortunately, Huda Basalim is not able to be here, so I'm going to read what she would have said. Thank you for Palmer. Really great work going on. Oh, okay. That's sorry. I thought that suddenly Huda had appeared, but we've just got a photograph. We go to the Arab region, where everyday life in some countries can be extremely challenging. In fact, 2 of our executive board members from Yemen and from Sudan are in countries facing very difficult times. We don't have videos from them, but I will tell you something about them. Huda Basalim, who you see on your screen, is the incoming vice president of the executive board. She was previously regional member, so she's just moved one different portfolio. Huda works in healthcare and medicine and specializes in cancer care, and is vice dean of the Faculty of Postgraduate Studies and full professor at Aden University, as well as being the director of the Aden Cancer Registry and Research Center. It's very hard to continue to work in the current conditions in Yemen. The pandemic has exacerbated an already very fragile situation. Even so, The Yemen National Chapter has still managed to carry out many activities. There are 39 dedicated members, as well as 6 women who've managed to complete their PhDs with fellowships from OWSD, and 3 awardees of the Elsevier Foundation prizes. Huda herself received a PhD fellowship from OWSD to study in Malaysia, and she also received the OWSD Elsevier Foundation Award. She seizes all opportunities to inspire women scientists, particularly young women, to help them to flourish personally and professionally in science. She's looking forward to the establishment of strong national chapters throughout her region and various local and international networking activities. At this moment, there are members in 17 countries and 5 national chapters, which include Sudan, Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, and our newest chapter, Morocco, with 29 members. So we welcome Huda back to the executive board, but in a vice presidential role. The next person I want to introduce is Nashwa Issa. We've got a photograph of her. I would also like to thank, there she goes, Nashwa Issa. She's from Sudan, who's been vice president for the Arab region since 2016 and is now leaving the board. We are extremely grateful for all the hard work she has been doing, in particular difficult times, to gather and unite scientists in Sudan. Nashwa is a physicist, like many other women in Sudan. Like Huda, Nashwa also received a PhD from OWSD and then from the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in South Africa. And like Huda, Nashwa also received the OWSD Elsevier Foundation Award some years later. Nashwa is the chair of the Sudan National Chapter and has organized some fantastic events, including 10 days of activity, 10 days to raise awareness about women in science for the OWSD 25th anniversary a few years ago. Nashwa and other members of her national chapter visited all the universities in Sudan and told them about OWSD and how to apply for fellowships. And they also organized a fun run to raise money. So thank you so much, Nashwa and Huda. Now I'm handing over to Shamila Nai from Egypt, newly elected board member for the Arab region. Have we got Shamila?
Thank you so much, Nashwa. It has been good to meet you, and I'm sure I will be in contact with you for advice and suggestions over the coming months. Yes, I am Shamila Nai from Egypt, and I'm so happy to have my first time on the OWSD Executive Board. I am Associate Professor of Microbiology and Immunology at Suez Canal University in Egypt. I went to Japan to study my PhD in medical sciences at Niigata University and then did postdocs in the USA and Japan. I was one of the first Arab scientists to apply microbial proteomic techniques, helping in revealing good markers for microbes spreading in the community. This work has also been important during the pandemic because studying the proteome of COVID-19 virus aid in identification of specific proteins, helping in developing vaccines. I'm incredibly proud to have been elected to represent the Arab region on the executive board of OWSD. I am most looking forward to raising the awareness of Arab women about science, strengthening their role in the development process, and promoting their representation in scientific and technological leadership. And now I am handing over to Clancy Punella, Vice President for the Latin America and Caribbean region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shima. We're both new members of the Executive Board, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to have been elected to the OWSD Executive Board. My name is Clancy Bonilla. I'm from Guatemala, but I have traveled and studied all around the world, including spending nearly 10 years in South Korea, 4 years in Chile, and 5 years in Brazil. Now I'm based in Iceland to do research on building science and technology capacity in developing countries and the role that international cooperation can play. In fact, it's not surprising that I'm intensely interested in the contribution that scientific diaspora can play in the development process of our home countries. This is a relevant topic to be discussed within the OWSD Executive Board. In other words, I have not lived in Guatemala for the past 15 years. However, my physical absence from my country does not make me relevant to the strengthening of the science and research context back home. By contrast, I have been more effective mobilizing resources and building connections with my country of destination, resulting in strengthening science and technology capacities in Guatemala. I believe that people like me, women scientists, nationals from the Latin America and Caribbean region, for example, who typically migrate all over the world, have a great deal to contribute to our countries of origin. And most importantly, we stay very connected and remain intrinsic members of the communities that have left, but often return to and hope to return home for good one day. In my duties as the newly elected Vice President for the Latin America and the Caribbean region, I hope to connect with as many members as I can in the region to support them when they want to set up a national chapter, to attend their meetings when invited, and to answer their questions and challenges. We are all working together to build network across the region. Indeed, I would say that we are experts in connecting and recruitment. At this moment, we're over 1,500 OWSD members in the Latin America and the Caribbean region, from which almost 500 are from native Guatemala. We now have 9 national chapters already established in Latin America from the 22 registered countries: Uruguay, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Brazil in the southern part of the Americas. In the central part, we have the cases of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Already in process of establishment of the national chapters, we have the cases of our sisters from OWSD Mexico and Nicaragua to close the 2021 with 50% of countries in our regions with established national chapters. We turned the COVID-19 pandemic from a crisis into opportunities. We will devote the next 4 years to have the 22 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean with established OWSD national communities. Already, we are working with teams in Paraguay, Venezuela, Chile, Argentina, and the Dominican Republic. What I'm really looking forward to doing over the next 4 years in my term as Vice President of LAC region is to promote further collaborations among our communities, interacting in our languages, Espanol, Portuguese, and certainly English as a sort of lingua franca. Also promoting further interactions with our sisters in OWSD national chapters in other countries and regions, like the one we had in 2020 with South Africa, collaborating with English proofreading manuscripts with which Guatemala and South African communities learn from. We learn from each other and support each other. I'm now going to hand over to Hannah, our outgoing Vice President for the Latin America and the Caribbean region. We thank you very much, Hannah, for your energy and commitment and for working so hard to solve some challenging issues in our region. We hope very much to continue working with you. Over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Clancy. Yes, I'm Hannah. I'm a mathematician. I am originally from Argentina, but spent most of my academic life in Uruguay, where I went from being a teaching assistant to be a full professor. Now I am based in China, in the city of Shenzhen. I work at the Southern University of Science and Technology. Here I do research in dynamical systems and ergodic theory. I am passionate about increasing the visibility and influence of women scientists and I am also passionate about raising awareness of harassment in academic institutions. I know that this is a particularly problematic issue in my region, and I hope to have contributed at least partially solving this issue in my country, in Uruguay. The thing I am most proud to have done so far as executive board member is recruiting members and helping to set up new chapters in my region. I am also proud of supporting established chapters to be renewed. I am now retiring from the executive board, but will continue to follow OWSD closely and support when I can. I am very proud of the work Clancy and Patricia have done in my region. I am happy that they will succeed me. They have done a great work in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean countries. This is a wonderful organization to be part of. I have really enjoyed my time on the board, and I loved working with these inspiring women. I'm sure the new members will bring energy and visibility to OWSD. I wish you all very good luck. Now I'm handing over to Patricia Castillo Briceño from Ecuador, who is the new Executive Board regional member from Latin America and the Caribbean. Patricia, over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. I am Patricia Castillo Briceño. I started as a marine biologist in Ecuador, and then I went to develop my career in biomedicine in Spain and France for several years. Now I am back in Ecuador, and I'm working on the one side on doing my research to assess the impact of climate change, applying the skills of marine biology in biomedicine to know how it is impacting the local species. And on the other side, I'm also joining efforts with other colleagues here to encourage the participation of more women in science, particularly through networking and alliances, and also with actions on training and visibilization. In Ecuador and Latin America and all over the planet, we know there is a need to work for a more evidence-based world. We need all hands and brains, and to include women's perspective for a real advancement of sciences. I'm very excited to be part of OWSD Executive Board. I'm already being involved in this. Thank you very much for voting me. And I'm already involved in a project that is called Ocean Visions with Nicole Leguiza. It is an amazing initiative that is fostering the connection between arts and sciences through a series of documentaries that we will be speaking more on this Friday. I'm especially looking forward to promote the access to international mobility for a positive effect on the situation of women in science in Latin America, and also to support initiatives that improve the conditions to do science in developing countries, considering women in all our diversity, and also that sciences shouldn't be restrained by any borders. Now, I'm handing back over to our president, Jennifer Thompson.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful introduction to the old and the new. Now, my final task is to talk a little bit about the previous presidents. We've had three before me. The first one who started OWSD was, first president was Lydia Makuba. There are the pictures of the three. So on your right, sorry, sorry, that's Lydia Makuba on the right there. We are so sorry we were so sorry, and I'm sure you are too, to hear about her death. She died at the age of 84 on the 24th of July this year. And if you go onto the OWSD website, you will see a special dedication section to her. And you can leave pictures, you can look at the pictures, you can leave messages, you can read the messages. So it says here, she was the first president of what was then the Third World Organization for Women in Science, TWOWS, which then became OWSD in 2010. And from an idea conceived at a TWOS conference in Beijing in 1987, Lydia Makubu led the effort to organize a study group to explore the creation of an organization that would promote the experience, needs, and skills of women scientists in the developing world. And TWOS, now OWSD, was officially launched 5 years later in Cairo, Egypt in 1993, where Lydia Makubu was elected president at the first General Assembly. She started her academic career as a lecturer at the University of Eswatini, which most people will still remember as Swaziland. It's a small country that's completely enveloped by South Africa. And she was a lecturer there, and she advanced to become Vice Chancellor in 1988. Her research focused on the chemistry of medicinal plants in Eswatini and their use in traditional systems of medicine. She also contributed greatly to an understanding of the beliefs in which traditional medicine is based. Just a few of her great achievements. She was a UNESCO chair for Women in Science. She was vice president for the Science Council for Africa. And can you believe it? She was a member of the Senate in Parliament of Eswatini. What a remarkable woman. So please do go to her page on our website, because she is and still remains an inspiration to us all. Following Lydia Makubu's stint as president came Professor Kaiser Jamil from India. She was president from 2005 to 2010. Amongst her achievements was that in 2012, she was given the Distinguished Scientist Award from the Pentagram Research Center, and she is well known for her research in cancer biomarkers. And then finally, my immediate predecessor was Professor Fang Xin from China. She was president from 2010 to 2016. And we are extremely grateful to Professor Fang for all her dedication and commitment to OWSD, and indeed to China and the Chinese Academy of Sciences for supporting our executive board meeting in 2019 and for hosting the wonderful 2010 General Assembly in Beijing. China also hosts many OWSD PhD fellows, and I know Professor Fang will tell us something about these students and much more. So Professor Fang, all the members of the OWSD Executive Board would like to thank you most warmly for your time and support, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. So now it's over to Professor Fang.
Dear President Jennifer Thompson, dear current and past OWSD EB members, it has so good to hear from you all today. Thank you all for taking the time to prepare these interesting and inspiring videos. As President Thompson has said, I was OWSD president from 2010 to 2016, and I very much enjoy my time as head of the executive board. I'm especially proud that the Chinese Academy of Sciences was able to host the first OWSD General Assembly and the International Conference in June 2010 in Beijing. Since 2016, I have continued to attend all OWSD board meetings to support the new president and board members. Indeed, in October 2019, the Chinese Academy of Sciences hosted the annual EB meeting, and all OWSD EB members were invited to present at the International Symposium on Women Scientists in Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Beijing. China is also been a long-term host of OWSD PhD fellows. There have been 46 students award to attend the OWSD Institute in China, and of these, 35 have already graduated. OWSD fellow in China came most from nearby Asian countries like Myanmar and Bangladesh, but also many students away from Africa, especially Nigeria. We have students from Cameroon, Elsevier, Ghana, Rwanda, and Uganda, and also Sudan and Yemen. Students choose to study mostly at the world-famous Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, but also Sun Yat-sen University and Zhejiang University. I'm also very pleased to say that OWSD will be co-organizing a workshop with China-based elements of International Science Organization on women in science toward the diversity of research and the researcher on 18 to 19 November this year. Also with the Hungary Academy of Sciences, we will publish a statement at the end of this workshop to call for future action and international collaboration on women's issues in science fields. I'm pleased to say that an OWSD member, Chao Bogo from Kenya, has been invited to present to this workshop on her innovative research design computer programs that can be used easily on mobile phones. And I see that Charles is also a panelist during this OWSD conference and will present to the Applied Sciences panel on Thursday. Please make sure you go and see her. I have very much enjoyed my years on the boat with OWSD, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you in the future. Thank you to all members for your support. So now I close this executive board handover and would like to wish you all the very best for these 2 weeks. You have a very full and rich program ahead of you. Thank you very much.
Wow, Tanya, what an afternoon or morning or wherever you are. It's been, I think of the handover, I think there's one word that I would use to sum it up, and that's enthusiasm. I mean, have you ever heard such enthusiastic people talking about the work they do? I mean, I was blown away. So
no, it's really wonderful. I feel like we're 2 football commentators here. No, it's been a fantastic day, and I think all of the presentations and the videos that people have taken time to record from, ministers, Italian ministers who have recorded videos, UNESCO ADG of Science has recorded a video for us. All of our donors have recorded videos. Our fellows have recorded videos. All of the executive board members have recorded videos, and people have recorded them on all different kinds of platforms as well, because people are in all kinds of different situations. So some people have professional setups in their office. Some people have been recording videos on WhatsApp. Isn't technology wonderful that you can do all of these things so easily in different formats? And even if sometimes the effect is not so professional, what comes across is it's so important to have the contributions, right? From all over
Right.
the world, from whoever can manage to record, however they can manage to record. So I've just really so enjoyed, I mean, I've seen the videos before, but hearing them all together in the same place has been really wonderful. Very